It was the Warhammer Day Preview on Saturday, and there was some good stuff. It wasn't the biggest or most extreme preview that we've ever seen, but there were a few tasty morsels to be had, and in this video we're going to take a look at my top 3 reveals from that preview. Now, before we get into it, this video is sponsored by Serious Lights, and we'll be hearing more from them later on, but there is a couple of things that we need to talk about when it comes to this particular preview. Firstly, there was some good stuff in there, but there was a lack of cheeky tease at the end. I'm used to previews where we get just a little something, just a little hint, the merest shadow of a future reveal right at the very end. We didn't get that this time, and it felt weirdly lacking because of it. Also, we are going to do an honourable mention this time round as well, because there was one particular model that I still don't know why it exists. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know whose idea it was. And I think I love it, but at the same time, it's really weird, even by the standards of the faction that it belongs to, and it's kind of jarring in a way. But we're going to jump straight in with some 40k action, because there was a squad shown off, and I was absolutely delighted to see that rumours were true, and that the Striking Scorpions have finally been updated. And here they are, the squad in question, new Striking Scorpions. The Eldari are finally clawing their way out of the resin black hole that so many of the Aspect Warriors have been stuck in. This just made me happy to see. They are pretty faithful updates to the Striking Scorpions. One of the coolest squads that the Eldar have appearance-wise. I've always really liked them. There's definitely a bit of the old Predator thing going on with those dreadlocks coming out of the helmets, which is no bad thing. Plus, the squad leader has a claw. Excellent, 10 out of 10. Love that. They just look great. Really nice, really crisp. Still looking extremely Striking Scorpion-esque. But, just like so many of the updates, it's taking that really cool concept and making it so that it just doesn't look like it's 20 years old, which, for a lot of the Eldar stuff, maybe 20 years is an exaggeration. Maybe that's an exaggeration. But you have to admit that when it comes to the Aspect Warriors, they've been languishing for quite a while, and every time we see a squad get an update, it just makes me happy. It just makes me super happy, because it's a really cool idea. The execution of those squads is good, but they just need to be more crisp, more detailed. The definition needs to be higher, and that's exactly what we're getting with these. I have to admit, I much prefer just the helmets to having the bare head or open face or whatever. I definitely much prefer the helmets. I think they just look, I don't know, I think they look menacing. That way, they look more menacing, they look more threatening, they look more cohesive to me personally. Then again, you know that I'm not a big fan of the bare head approach on fully armoured figures. I always prefer to see that armour just, fully encasing the warrior, but that's just me. You may well love that, and that's absolutely fine. As expected with these, I did see a few people who were kind of surprised when these were shown off that there didn't seem to be much in the way of options, but then Striking Scorpions don't really have options. You get the Shuriken pistol, you get the chainsword, and that's what you get. They are close combat specialists. That's what they're there for. I really like this. I really like it. I'm super happy that they've come back and actually updated this squad. They did also do the Space Marine Scouts. They didn't get a place in my top 3, but that's mostly just because they look like slightly taller Scouts. And the Scouts already looked okay. For me, felt like this squad was, I don't know, it brought me more joy than the Scouts did. That's not to say the Scouts look bad. They don't. But you know what? I'm just really happy to see this squad get an update, and it's a really nice, faithful one at that. Now, it is worth pointing out that we did stream the preview, so if you want just the whole thing, everything that was shown off, then there'll be a link in the description for you to follow. But yeah, I really like these. They are hitting the spot in all the right ways. Now, before we move on to the number 2 spot, this video is sponsored by Serious Lights, and it's really nice to welcome Serious Lights back to the channel, because that right there is my Serious Light. It's the high definition table light, and I have to admit that mine does not look quite as clean as the ones on the website, but that's mostly because it's been in the splash zone for a good 9 months or so. It's been my go-to light for painting miniatures for the last 9 months, and I have had absolutely no reason or compulsion to switch it out for anything else because it does the job incredibly well. With a flexible, adjustable neck that can reach pretty much any angle you need it to, an adjustable beam angle and a dimmer wheel, it is absolutely perfect for painting. I'm not going to say that it can work miracles, but frankly it's doing a lot to compensate for my terrible eyesight, which is always a plus. Sirius lights come with a 30-day risk-free trial, a 5-year warranty, and they are hand-built in Great Britain. Plus, if you use offer code SR495, you will receive £100 off high-definition light plus free delivery. Follow the links in the description and the pinned comment to check out Sirius Lights today. Thanks once again to Sirius Lights for sponsoring the video. Let's get back to it. And then I think I'm going to go and have to give my light a clean because he's looking unhappy with me now. This is like my second pick for what we saw on Saturday, and it is Iona's Cryptborn. It is an update to an existing model, a model which, frankly, I never liked. This is the original fella, and I've just never got on with this model. I've never really liked it all that much. I've always felt like the skull helm was really weirdly sculpted and oddly misshapen, like the nose cavity is really pronounced but in a really weird way. The mouth the teeth don't work all that well. Very pronounced jawline, which is cool, but I don't know, it's felt very cartoony and not really that in keeping with the rest of the Stormcast range. The big, massive, like, relic thing that he's got is okay, it's fine, but it's just another example of, like, a weird conflict. Like, the skull in the skeleton in his big relic looks far cooler than the skull that he has as a helmet. And things like having the shin bones implanted in the armour is okay, but it's also just a weird choice overall when it doesn't hold up when it comes to like the chest plate and stuff. There's like lots of ideas going on, but the implementation is kind of odd on pretty much all of them. By contrast, the new version of Iona's Cryptborn is way better. Admittedly, the visual language of him is a little bit weird because at a glance it's a bit more chaosy than you might necessarily think for a Stormcast Eternal. It's just the number of spikes going on, right? So he's got a better skull helm this time around. The skull helm looks absolutely fantastic, but it is ringed by that kind of spiked halo, which is common on Stormcast, admittedly. But then you've got this big icon behind him, which is also ringed with spikes. His weapon is also ringed with spikes, and then he has his relic in his other hand, which has spikes coming out of it. At a glance, you would be forgiven for thinking that this is a Chaos affiliated, like a Chaos follower model, when actually it's not. He is 100% Stormcast Eternal. But that kind of temporary confusion aside, that first glance confusion kind of gives way when you look at him a bit more. I think maybe the skulls in the knees is a bit over the top, but the rest of his armour is absolutely fantastic. Like, the idea that they had with the original version, with having those bones kind of planted into the armour, I think the execution is better here, especially when it comes to that breastplate. Having the ribs actually embedded in the chest plate is so cool. I really like that. I would prefer to see that kind of relic he's holding like being hung off something and him holding on to reins or something on the dragon, but that's just, I don't like mounted models that aren't holding anything. I just don't like the look of it. It just looks weird to me. I know that it's something that you can absolutely do on horses, bikes, large dogs, whatever you choose to ride, but I don't know, I just never quite got on with that. That being said, something I really like about this model is the dragon that Ionis is riding. There's just something about it that feels like a bit old school. It feels like a bit more of a callback to the kind of older dragons that Games Workshop has made. What I immediately thought of when I saw this was, it kind of reminds me a bit of the Sorceress on Black Dragon, which is an old model now. It's an old model. It's getting on quite a bit, but there's just something about the overall feel of it that feels closer to that than the newer dragons that they've made, especially the Stormcast Eternal ones that are like being ridden. I don't know what it is about it, but it just has that feel for me. Now, of course, I'm not saying that this looks exactly the same as like the new Iona's Cryptborn. That's obviously not true at all. But for whatever reason, I thought of this when I saw it, and I think it's probably because this has that really cool like integration of scenery that gives it the pose that it has. There's things like the tattered wings. I guess there's just like a vibe to it that the new Iona's Cryptborn kind of matches a bit better than he does the newer dragons in the Stormcast range. Between the armour across the head, the legs and the chest, the kind of armoured segments on the saddle, those torn wings, the way it's posed on the masonry there, I just really, really like it. I think it looks it still looks fairly dynamic, even though it's in a relatively static pose, but because of the way the tail's curling around, because you've got one claw still raised up, just the shape of the talons that they're holding on, I don't know, it feels very alive. I think probably if it wasn't for the sheer number of skulls in places I'm not a particular fan of, this would be kind of close to a 10 out of 10. And even then, that's just like a minor aesthetic choice that I'm not fully on board with. And it would be easy enough to either file them down or fill them over so that they're not as prominent. And I think the main reason I'm not a big fan of the skull placement and the number of them is that it takes away from what would otherwise be a very cool, clear focal point on the model, right? That skull helm that he's wearing is really, really good. It's really cool. It looks great. It's so much better than the previous one. I can't even express how much better it is. But the fact that you have so many other things of a similar like size, shape, appearance, it just takes away from it that little bit. And I don't think he needed all of that. I think if it had been mostly plain armor, but with the bones in like the shins and the bones in the breastplate, you could get away with just that and the skull helm, and it would look just as menacing, just as terrifying, if not more so. Overall, though, it's just really, really cool. It's just a really cool model. The pose is great. The sort of overall attitude is great. Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. Now, for our honourable mention, for our, weird runner-up, I'm going to give you a bit of advanced warning in case you haven't seen this lad already. Whatever you were thinking this was going to be, if you were thinking you had a clear idea as to what the Admech might get next, you probably weren't thinking about this. This is the Sidonian Skatros, and it is a sniper on comedy stilts. And no, I don't know what's going on either. I've got no idea what the hell. Oh, it's still making me laugh even now. Even now, it's been like 2 days since I first saw this, and I still see it and have a moment of, is that real? No, yeah, it is real, okay. Just mad. What a choice. What an absolutely mad choice. I mean, functionally, aesthetically, it matches Admech perfectly well. Matches Admech perfectly well. Nothing wrong with it in terms of, matching the overall aesthetic of the rest of the range. But what is going on with why the legs? Why those legs on that lad? Also, the big dangly exhaust cable is crazy. The fact that you've got this four-armed sniper. Normally, you would have thought that you want to stay out of the way as a sniper, try and make yourself less obtrusive, as opposed to standing let's say 10, maybe 10, 13, 14 feet maybe. If we assumed that the guy on normal height legs would be say 5'10" or something, and then easily double it. Easily. Because then you've also got the big, aerial sticking out at the top of his shoulders. Or the power pack, even. Got a shorter aerial next to it. That is a tall boy. That is a very, very tall boy. And it is absolutely mad to me that that's where someone's brain went when they were thinking, what are we going to do for a sniper for the Admech? The thing is, I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. It's weird. It's a bit creepy. It's pretty out there, which is, that is pretty much like a checklist of things that I like in miniatures. I'm just baffled by it. In the same way I think that some people are baffled when I, pick up one of the Cosmic Horror Mega Gargants and, show them to people. People will quite often go, why is that? And I don't really have an answer other than I thought it would be cool. I'm asking the same question of this, and I realise the answer is the same too, but just mad. What a mad decision. I don't hate it. I'm just confused by it. Now, my absolute favourite thing that we saw in that preview was actually something for the old world, which I didn't think would happen, and I wasn't sure how big a drop it would be for the old world on this stream. We got a couple of new models. We got a new squad, a couple of new models, and news of what we're getting back in terms of the old range. But by far the thing that excited me the most was this plastic Pegasus, this Bretonnian Lord on Pegasus, and this is one of those rare ones where I just don't see anything that I would change. I would just have it as is, and I would be super, super happy with it. I love the wings look fantastic, I really like the feathers, I really like the cloth and the barding across the Pegasus itself, some really nice mix of textures. You've also got like the shield hanging down, I believe there's a sword on the other side as well. The expression on the Pegasus is good. I mean, even things like having quilting of the saddle on the back there, like just little details like that. Oh, I just love it. I absolutely love it. It looks fantastic. It really, really does. Things like the ribbon, keeping the tail in check at the back, like just, oh, the little bow on it, it's so good. It's so good. Now, I have to admit, I've spoken to a few people who weren't that blown away by this because it felt more like kind of standard fantasy fare than what you would get from, say, AOS, but Warhammer Fantasy / the Old World for some of the factions is a bit more tropey or kind of historically based, whereas AOS is a lot more out there. I just think that for what this is and for what it does, it is pretty much perfect for that, you know? Plus it comes with options as well, like it's not just one kit that makes one thing. You've got different options for like weapons, you've got different options for heads, there's different options for like barding for the Pegasus itself. Like it's really, really nicely done. I really do like it. Even comes with options for a banner bearer as well, so oh, look at that. Look at that. I just think for what it does, it is the perfect thing for what it does. Absolutely perfect. It is worth mentioning as well that something else that was shown off were Knights of the Realm on foot. Something that is a thing and has been a thing for ages apparently. I'm not a massive Bretonnia expert, but from what they were saying on stream, it's something that's been talked about but never previously available. But there is going to be a new kit for Knights of the Realm on foot. And I mean, this just looks like an absolute gold mine of parts. It looks like a box of these will set you up for life when it comes to kind of like for other projects. It looks like such a fun kit. Such a fun kit. But yeah, out of everything that we saw, this was the thing I think that excited me the most. And I wasn't expecting it to be this. I really wasn't. I was really hoping that we'd get a good amount of old world news, that we'd get like some big drop, some big dump of here's a load of stuff that you can buy, which is exactly what we got, but I wasn't expecting it to be a case of here is the thing that you will be most interested in out of that entire preview. But since Saturday, this is the model that I've thought about the most, and it's the one that's kind of occupied the most time in my sort of what would I do this at? How would I paint this? What can I use this for? I didn't really expect that. So there you go, that's my top 3 for what we saw on Saturday. If you want to watch the whole stream, there'll be a link in the description, and I'll also put a link to the article itself so you can go back and peruse at your leisure. Thank you very much to Serious Lights for sponsoring the video. Let me know what you thought of all of that in the comments down below. What was your favourite thing that was shown off on Saturday? Let me know. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, and I will see you for the next one.